Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cantina Club. This week
Another
we're
one.
gonna, yes, another one. And this week we're on to episode 7 of the Acolyte.
What?
I don't know that sigh in there.
This is
And
this
I don't
is
Telling
know what you,
already
I don't know
collapsing.
what you're talking about.
I'm having
I
flashbacks
even
to
wore
Star
a
Trek Discovery.
I even wore a shirt that shows an easier, earlier time
Oh,
of more
man, no.
quality that has already been forgotten.
And I wore
So
my fighting Gundark shirt because
yeah, I think you're gonna need that today.
I have some bone spick. Yeah.
So, like I've been kind of doing here lately, I'm going to start this discussion off with a question. Uh, do you think this episode was worse than The Power of
Yes.
Many?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
immediately answered yes.
Yeah, because this was the standard fall episode right here.
Yes. This
This
was
is
what
the
it
there's no other curtains to
Yeah,
hide
yeah, yeah.
behind.
They're very
this is
true.
what they were supposedly okay. This is what they were building toward the revelation of the truth of what happened on Burndock,
Right. You
Hmm.
can't go
so
to the
that
last episode of season one and establish your story.
no.
It has to be established by the seventh episode. I'm sorry, and
Yeah.
so whatever they reveal in the eighth episode, I'm just going to go on record because I said in the mini episode, or maybe whatever it was,
Hmm.
three.
Three.
I said
Yeah.
I haven't seen the show yet. I said there's no way to tell everything. This
Right.
is not a standalone show. Every episode counts on the one before and after it. And I said I'm reserving judgment until I've seen it. Well, I feel like I've seen it. I
I
think
did
they
Oh,
too.
have
yeah,
details
I did
absolutely.
too, but
and
wait. Okay. This is what I was going to wait until the end of the podcast to say this, but but I didn't know that this is even, there's no relevance. I told you guys before we started recording that last night, one of my friends who's a big fan of Star Wars, and I started talking about this, and we can spend hours talking about Star Wars, but I can't believe we spent 3.5 hours talking about this episode. And we kept looking at everything. What, like, the more we looked at it, the worse it got. The more
Oh,
plot holes we found. We tried to
yeah,
explain
it
different
doesn't
things
bear
and we
scrutiny
couldn't
at
explain
all.
them. No. And it got to the
no, it
point at the
doesn't.
end of our conversation, my friend who's a big fan of Clone Wars was like, how did Dave Filoni let this get past his desk? How did this happen? But we had one final thought. I told her about the comparisons that the showrunner had been making to Rashomon, that this was kind of inspired by Rashomon,
Hmm.
the Akira Kurosawa film, where you have a crime that was committed and it's told from multiple perspectives of people who were actually there, but you get a different story from every person to the point that there's really no objective truth. You can't absolutely
No, when there's human
understand.
beings involved, there's no
Yeah.
way to get to the
Yeah.
Right.
truth. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the key about Rashomon that got to me and what makes that movie so powerful is that even though there's a guy who is the least biased person who sees the crime committed and then he describes it last and you might think he's telling the truth, you also find out that he lied about certain things involved in it. So everybody lies in some way. But what was particularly horrible is that one of the crimes that was committed was a man was murdered. And so they're trying to find out who murdered him. And they can't, every story is different. So they can't tell, how did this guy get killed? And then finally they get a medium to come along, haul the damn guy back from the dead to bear witness at this trial of
At
his
his
own
He's
own
the
murder.
murder.
he's the
Yeah.
least
Hmm.
reliable witness of
And
all.
yes, and he tells the story, and you suddenly realize that our anger, our vengeance, our agendas can survive beyond death itself, and there's no,
Hmm.
then how do you tell objective truth in the pursuit of justice? So I was wanting something like that in this show because there have been comparisons to Rashomon.
And how did
I
that work out for you?
definitely didn't get it in
Yeah.
that episode, but let me say this. We got one episode left. I was telling my friend about Rashomon. She hadn't seen the movie. And she was suddenly like, well, what if this episode wasn't the objective truth? What if it was somebody telling the story, like when or Osha put the Sith uh, helmet on her head? Is this the Sith Lord's story of it? And then are we going to get a different perspective in the final episode? Is that why the Jedi are such
Yes.
bumbling idiots in this episode?
We're
That it's
going to get
told
it
from,
implied, but it's not going to. I don't think we're going to get it count by count, but we're going to get implied that Osha's going to get revealed the truth. So she's going to have her memories restored and her perspective. I don't know if her memories were restored or not, but I would guess they are. and she's going to
But
have her own
regardless,
perspective.
I told my friend,
That is
regardless,
she's the protagonist.
if
So her
that
truth
was,
will be the truth.
well, if that was not the objective truth, if that episode was not the end of the mystery, okay, and that was someone else telling it, still, even if it was the Sith Lord
No one
telling it to her to
cares.
seduce her,
No.
yeah, it was so stupid. Tell
No,
the Sith
no one
Lord, dude,
cares.
that was the dumbest story I've ever heard. That doesn't explain what happened that makes any sense. How could I believe you? And there were
There's
no
only if the truth made the Jedi, it can only be marginally worse at this point. You know what I mean? All they would be just sitting around rubbing their hands, cackling would be the only way they'd
But
be worse.
my friend and I were trying to find something to save this, and so she's like, "Well, maybe we thought at first the last episode would just be some kind of wrap up where we'd bring Sol and May and the Sith Lord and Osha to that one planet, and they'd face each other. But maybe there's going to be a third telling of it, like there was in Rashomon. But still, like that can't save what we saw this week.
No,
That
the whole
can't save.
show.
Absolutely
Whoever
not.
told that story is a crackpot.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Could you repeat that, please?
I mean, if that's their perspective and they believe anyone else can believe that. No, I didn't mean, well, yeah, the show,
in universe.
The writer is poorly written. But if the in universe, if that's the
I'm trying to get you to say something definitive and harsh here.
Well, I am saying it's poor writing.
Okay.
I'm saying it's poorly written.
That's scathing. That's just scathing.
I'm saying it's poorly written. But in universe, even if it comes from someone, in universe, it makes no sense. And why would you believe them at all? Because it was just full of inexplicable actions that had no real motivations to them. It were just.
And the mysteries,
it was a mess.
The mysteries are not explained. There's no rules to this universe. No rules. No. Like one person can possess one person, then it takes 25 people to possess one person.
Yeah.
Then if you get interrupted, you freaking die.
They die.
Yeah. How did they just die?
Did anyone explain that to them, what the risk they were taking? And I know they're talking about sacrifice and stuff, but I think that justifies that this is a dangerous environment for children. I think that actually everything we saw justifies that the Jedi probably should have taken them away. Yeah. Because they could be practicing their power of many, and somebody sneezes and they all freaking brain hemorrhage and fall over dead, including the kids. It's dangerous. It's like being raised by windsurfers in Australia.
I'm sorry, but how is being raised by Sol any better than that? Okay. Like, how can we talk about the Jedi for just a second? Okay.
Of course.
Let me say something else about this. Yes, I need to, and I need to say
we only got 30 minutes. Is
listen to me. Yes. Yes, it is the Gundark show.
This week.
Silence your snout for just a second. The Sol character, if we go back and look at the way we were reviewing this show at the beginning, we were most impressed with the actor playing Sol and with that character. We were interested in seeing a Jedi Knight who actually seemed to have empathy, who had emotions, who seemed human. He got progressively more and more crazy and emotional and losing control of himself throughout the story, but it seemed to make some sense to me. I felt like he was falling, into a dark pit that came from his past. And I thought that this was going to be the episode that would reveal that he made a terrible, a deliberate tragic choice. I thought this was going to be a great tragedy. It was just buffoonery instead.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that he was a controlled person who had empathy and that was one of his strengths from the beginning. He was a maniac from the beginning, according to this episode. He was totally out of control. He had no sense of how to make a choice that made any sense except by emotions. He was just acting instantly on everything. How the hell did he get out of the Jedi Academy?
That's my question.
How did he become a knight? And then I want to say something about the other Jedi, and then I'll let you speak, I promise. The other Jedi, Torben, who committed suicide at the beginning of this. I thought something they had done had such gravity that they violated their morals, that it would cause them to commit suicide. He came across as just like an overgrown baby hobbit that was whining because he didn't get his second breakfast or his 11sies or whatever, and I want to go home. I want to go back.
He's
to
like playing the role of Pip,
How old was he? how did he leave the academy and go on a mission and still be that immature? They've only been there 6 weeks. He's just been told that what they're doing has to do with something that's vital to the discovery and understanding of the Force. And yet he's whining to go back. It's just like they were just, all of them.
And how did he not know what they were there for in the first place?
Yes, that was one thing my friend said.
They
like,
just
how
tell
did they
the
go through
Padawan,
6 weeks of...
They just tell the Padawan, do this. There's no reason for it. Just do it. And just do it. I wish they had shown a scene of him coming across flyers on the ground that were dropped of a rave on Coruscant. He's like, damn it.
Oh, I'm missing it.
I'm missing everything.
And his insane choice to go back when he discovers that the girls got the high M count and they might be the virgins in the Force.
That was
and I'm just going to hop on my
moment possibly of the whole
yes, thing. And I'm going to go back and just got to grab them, and then I will be able to go back to Coruscant.
That was the linchpin moment that if you put this in order, in the chronological order, and watched it, that would be the moment that escalated the whole thing probably. By putting the two most reckless guys together and going to the thing. And that made no sense. There's no way to justify that at all.
Him leaving could make sense if you say it's the after effect of that possession, where the woman made him think, I gotta go back to Coruscant. Because it seems like the Wookiee Jedi also was affected by that, because he was still drawing symbols, in his hut years later. And that may be why Torben committed suicide. It would do, because there's still some after.
The Wookiee had like a whole coven in his head, for one thing.
Yeah.
And had him attack his people. Torben, he was just possessed for a minute and tempted with a deal. Like, don't you want to go home? I can give you, whatever she was offering him. I don't understand.
But even if it was like my friend said, maybe it was like a possession hangover. But
I'm telling you, basic storytelling. I'm not one. I can't preach, but it seems to me you had to have rules to hang your story on. Otherwise, the audience sniffs it out pretty quickly. And there's a difference. Certain audiences don't care about rules. They're like, entertain me. And I'm not even going to ever think about this again, so it doesn't matter. The rest of us go, we like this universe. We like this Star Wars universe. When you break the rules, like you're bringing people back from the dead left and right. Well, what is death then? Is it even a rule anymore? Does it matter anymore? Anything. So you take that off the table. What are the stakes for characters besides just the overall, which side's going to win? And so you hurt yourself over and over again when you don't adhere to your own rules. And this is a mess. This show has been a mess from the beginning, and I was waiting for the revelations to make sense of it. All they did was introduce more mysteries.
Yeah.
And when you keep doing that, you have no answers. And it also, I just want to say this real quick, and I'll be done. I've said it before, I think, on here. I've done the same thing. So I understand, but this is someone who's in love with their own ideas. To the point where they are not developing them beyond the editorial stage. They should be reviewed, criticized. This should have been draft number whatever. But it's way too complicated. So every single idea that the writer came up with, they were in love with and could not cut. You got to cut half this stuff. You got to make it a simple human story. We have to understand where the people are coming from. Torben's actions make no sense. None. Zero. I'm sorry. He's a Jedi Padawan, or isn't he? Well, everything we know about Jedi Padawan, that is a serious error that he did there. But why? It just made no sense at all. They put nothing in there to show us why he made that decision, why he was so anxious to do it, why he was willing. I was just like, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, what is going on? And I knew that we were off the rails then. It's like, this is not going to work out. And it didn't. But I will say for Soul, you're saying, he became worse and worse. Yeah, this was his worst episode showing besides the last one, I think, as far as being out of control. But I think if you put him on the witness stand or whatever, you would find justifications for most of the stuff that he did, at least. They did not present it well. But when you have a child come to you testing for a Jedi who wants to be there, and the mothers agree to send them, and they say, our mom says sacrifice is the way to the future. You go, child sacrifice?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is enough to alarm anybody. They did not dwell on that.
Yeah.
You know, he
And
should have said, the Force is
he
telling me
saw.
that their lives are in danger. Now, the Force might have been telling him that because he was the danger presented to them. And he didn't know that. You know, their life is imminently in danger. There's a ceremony. We're talking about sacrifice. That was all there, but it was not presented in any way except just jump from cut to cut. You know, the guy hadn't put no thought into it because he felt pressed for time. But evidently, days passed. They all sat around. You know, they talked about it. So there was plenty of time to bring his concerns to everyone and get it all sorted out.
Yeah.
And plenty of time. I'm sorry, where the hell were they? There's no communicating at all with this planet. You know, when the Jedi Council says leave them alone, and they can't call them back and say we got new evidence. You know,
yeah.
that they're in danger. But you know, from my point of view, if the woman doesn't want to be stabbed with a lightsaber, don't disintegrate your child in front of him. You know, don't disintegrate yourself and the child in front of him.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that was against everything we knew about Soul, that he pulled his saber there. I don't get it. Again, it's a Torben moment, and it's just there to serve the plot. It's to get the plot from one thing to another. It made no sense. It's like, why wouldn't you force push the ghost? Or
exactly.
Or the child.
Like,
force push the child out of there.
The Force is your guiding principle, not your lightsaber. You know, in that moment when you don't know what's confronting you, you need wisdom. You don't need necessarily action. It can't be taken back. And anyway, but if you don't want to get stabbed, why turn into this dark mist and you're making an evil expression? And you pointed a child, and the child's like, and
the child begins to disintegrate.
And then and then when you get stabbed, you have the audacity, like, what? I was just gonna let her go. I was being a good person. Like, after what you just did, that was how am I supposed to construe that as? You're doing something positive.
That was the mist of human kindness.
The mist of humankind. That's why the child was yelling in fear at you, and you're turning into some demon looking. Your eyes go black, and you start turning into this black mist. Yeah, that's
and the episode. Let's address one more thing too. This episode sucked. I'm sorry, it sucked. The Jedi versus Wookiee fight was pretty cool. I felt like
that was the only good thing.
But it sucked because it should have never been presented this way.
No.
Bad decision to chop it up and throw it in episode whatever we're in 7 now.
7. Yeah.
There was no reason. There was nothing revealed that couldn't have been revealed before, and it felt like we were watching the lowlights of something, and it took all the moments that could have strung this together. I would like to watch it chronologically. If that's the only way I'm going to watch it again, chronologically, and see if it makes more sense, and if I empathize with the characters' decisions and stuff any better, because this way was terrible. It didn't work.
Not a good storytelling.
Because you're supposed to be building. You're supposed to be building towards a tragedy, and you built towards a fiasco instead. You know, and so it's just hugely.
I know I said I'd only say one thing. Let me only say one more thing. Anybody who likes the show, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not out to hurt you.
I'm not
trying to hurt your feelings. Enjoy the show.
Our opinion of it.
I wanted to love this show, but I can't. I
would love to embrace it, but it's just too many space beavers in the bag. You know, they're gonna bite you if you squeeze them.
Absolutely.
So,
Can I say? Go ahead, Chris. Can I say one more thing about the Jedi?
Go ahead.
The one point about, like, why did Soul stab the woman? Why did she turn into a mist? Like, also, why didn't he save the girls by lifting them up from the bridge rather than trying to hold a bridge?
That's got to be easier to just lift the girls.
And why did they stay on the bridge after it was falling instead of
deliberately identifying each other for some person who's
that
watching.
Was the only reason. It was
on the edge of a burning bridge that's collapsing, and just stay there. Just staring. It's like, hey, if you go that way, you'll make it back in a few steps, and if I go this way, and then we can go around because we live here. We know this place.
And we know how this thing works.
Yeah, we'll find each other.
Crazy writing like that really made
I know. Let's just say it. They're stupid. Soul comes around the corner, and he's looking at these two idiots just sitting there pointing at each other. They're like in a kung fu film. You. Just It's like, we know who you are. Yeah, we know who you are. You know who you are. Why are you pointing at each other?
Yeah.
It's
no.
He could have just pushed them back.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. The whole time I'm thinking that's like, just lift them up. You know, it's
He
like
could have jumped.
they're lighter
He
than the
can't jump
bridge.
across this little hole. He magically climbed a 60-foot wall
Yeah.
5 minutes ago. He can't jump over and just grab one and set her down, and then jump over the other way and grab one and set her down. Done.
It's not convenient for the plot.
Let's
So
hear what Corellian thinks, and then I want to make a final comment about the end of the show,
yeah,
because
no, I mean,
the
all I was
end,
really
I
going to
just
add,
like,
I echo all of your sentiments. Honestly, my biggest issue, I couldn't get past the emotional roller coaster of Soul and all the
yeah,
characters for that matter. You know, Soul and whatever his name is, Torben.
Torben,
Yeah, Torben.
Hobbit.
The whole point of, one of the crux of the Jedi Order is their stoicism and
Yeah.
their lack of, their detachment from emotions, and all we get are these emotional wrecks, making
Mm-hmm.
decisions based
It's
on.
the Bad Batch.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of a Bad Batch, sure.
It's the Bad Batch of the
Making
Jedi.
decisions based on emotional reactions to situations. And that's what the Jedi are supposed to be above, supposedly, but not this batch, you know. And why did they send this whole entire batch of Jedi out to be, what, Jedi botanists, for 6
Right.
weeks picking plants, you know?
I thought I'd seen it all until I saw a Wookiee with a metal detector just combing fields. Now, the way this could be put together, is if that was that metal that the guy used in his helmet and bracer,
Oh yeah,
and that's what the miners came across, and that's why it exploded
yeah.
or something.
There was a mine. They said it was a
It
mine
absorbs all
inside.
this energy, but it's way too late to be throwing that crap in there. Like
Yeah.
maybe this guy was the son of a miner, or something. The Sith guy. But this kind of episode just wipes any coolness of the Sith guy from my mind. And
Oh, absolutely.
I'm left with just the worst characters hanging around.
Yeah, it's just a bad aftertaste. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But the Wookiee,
Absolutely.
I loved it when he, I hated Torben so bad. I loved it when he just pressed his face into the wall and just ground his face against the wall. I was like, I'm sick of your face, Torben. That was pretty cool.
Oh, and that was a very uncomfortable scene, I thought, when she was trying to like possess him and move in on him. It was like
Yeah.
seduce him. Like, okay, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah, like,
There's a lot of that in this show. There's a lot. And it doesn't know where it's going. Like, what was she? What if he had said yes? Let's get it on. What if he had just thrown his robes off in his mind?
Right.
Okay, lady, let's go.
Let's do this.
What was she gonna do? Would she be like, "Oh, what? I
didn't mean for you to say yes."
It's like, how's she gonna explain this to the Zabrak chick later? It was only in his mind.
Exactly. It didn't really happen.
Yeah. They're just messing with so many ideas. Just cut it out. Cut it out. Give us a good story that makes sense. And you're right. Is this to show like the Jedi are in trouble or something? Well, yeah, I'd say so. They suck. They're freaking terrible. Yeah. And this is against what we know. This is just deconstruction. For deconstruction's sake, in my opinion.
Yeah, for destruction's sake.
Destruction. If we showed this whole show from a Sith's point of view, and he saw a Jedi helping a kid, and then the kid went and burned down his house and killed his family, you'd be like, the Jedi are evil. But you could still discern how the Jedi are Jedi.
Yeah.
This is not a point of view.
This is not how the
Jedi
suck.
They suck.
Really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, really bad. They suck. There's nothing admirable here. God save that virgin in the Force, wherever he or she is. Stay a virgin and in the Force. Don't let the Jedi find you, because they're just messing up everything at this point.
So, Gundark, what were your thoughts? You said you had
okay. The other thing I have about the end is I don't understand what the decision that the Jedi made at the end. Okay, now how the hell did Saul know that May set that fire? Did I miss something in the episode where he?
Right, I'm not sure how he knows that she did either, because he was not there.
I can tell you that he used the Force. They had a second. They were outside the wall. This is how they justified Soul being so frantic about getting inside. They were at the wall, and Torben said they've locked it. You remember May smashed the panel in a fit of rage, and the grown women are encouraging her. That's our way out. Thanks. That made no sense, but we're going to follow this child. The one that pulls wings off of Force butterflies. we're gonna follow her. But anyway, they're outside the wall, and he went, and they said, "What do we do now?" And he did this. Saul's all about his hands. His hands are all part. His hands and eyes are all part of his force power. So he had to do this to show us. And he closed his eyes.
Using the force. Yeah.
And it cut to the scene in the hallway where May is like going,
with the fire. Okay.
Yeah, with the fire.
Oh, right.
Okay.
And then he went,
I got it.
It's in trouble, or whatever he said.
Okay.
And
at least there's a
little
said,
Jedi climb.
That plot hole then has been filled, because I was like, how he wasn't there? How did he know she set the fire? But okay. The other question is the decision to tell the story that she set a fire, killed her family, and not tell the High Council about what really happened. This doesn't make sense to me, because they had already communicated with the High Council before the disaster happened. They had told them the whole thing, that there was a coven of witches there with 2 children that had force powers. They wanted to intervene and take the children away. There are no men there. They'd been sent there to look for virgins in the force, So I can see why the High Council might say, okay, leave it alone for now. Maybe we investigate this further or whatever. But the High Council, somebody there has that on their desk, on their report, because of what was happening there. Okay.
That's a good point.
Even if they come back and tell them this lie that May set the fire deliberately to kill and we bring OSHA back and she's got this high M count still. And they agreed. They had originally said they weren't going to train the girls. They refused the girls.
They were too old. Yeah.
Okay. If the Jedi know, if the High Council knows about her high M count, and that's the only reason they allowed her to be trained, still, why the hell haven't they gone back to investigate that planet and the virgins in the Force? And why aren't they looking the hell over OSHA to figure out what she is?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Why is that? They were looking for a virgins in the Force. And
it's like the Genesis planet from Star Trek. They put Spock's body on it and he came back to life.
Speech about how important this is to the Jedi. This is a way to create life. It's a power that needs to be investigated and protected. So what? What the hell? And then did the Jedi Council just allow the Sith Lord to rise from this? Because they didn't even go back to investigate. Because what I bet is that the Sith Lord knew about all this and he's there investigating. That's why he was interested in OSHA and May or whatever, because they represent this power of creating life with the Force, of this virgins in the Force. And they knew about it and they did absolutely nothing. That also makes no sense. They should have been asking those witches, like, what do you know about this planet? Did you obviously came here on purpose and this happened? Or you did it by accident, thinking your stuff was working. It was the planet that did it. We need to know which it is so we can narrow it down. Will you work with us? There's no reason for us to be enemies to figure out what's going on here.
Right.
Because they were seeing evidence of life being created.
Tell me why, beyond the Jedi Council's mistake, why did Indara choose to not tell the High Council the truth? Because Saul wanted to do it at the end. And Indara says, you want to take away everything else from that little girl. You're going to take away her dream after all that she lost. And you don't want to let her become trained like a Jedi. Why
she has every reason to believe she's not going to be trained at that point.
Yeah. Why? Yeah. And how would it be any more comfort to the little girl to know that her twin sister had tried to murder her and had murdered her entire family, and just so that I was just letting her become a Jedi, making that story a comfort. If Greedo is my brother. If someone came to me and told me, hey, and proved to me your brother murdered your whole family and tried to kill you, that would destroy me, no matter how much I wanted to learn to become a Jedi and was given the opportunity to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
So why is she even arguing that this is a way to save the psychology of this child and telling none of that made any sense?
No.
I just
bad conception. Like I said, this is like a draft that someone needed to get a hold of and say, we need to seriously change a lot of things here,
because this is not working.
There's like 10 ideas here and you can't honor them all. It's just not going to work. And you can't this is why people found Luke in The Last Jedi so jarring, because the last time we saw him, we had gone through 3 movies establishing a certain character, only to come back and show something completely unexpected without it
and
being
different.
shown on screen for us to witness and go along with. And when you just take Jedi and you say they're just incompetent and terrible, well, odds are there's going to be some incompetent and terrible Jedi, right? I mean, but still they represent almost nothing of what they just are people with powers. They're like X-Men cast-offs or something. My theory was they're all sent here to get rid of them. They were sent to that planet like, we got to be here another 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, Yoda's like, have them back. I will not.
Exactly.
Their stay extend we shall.
It was like the Jedi Academy forced them to pass these guys and let them graduate. And then, okay, what do we do with them? Throw them out on an uninhabited planet.
Who has a conversation with Saul and says, "We're putting you in charge of younglings after this"?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, let's do our ratings. Who wants to go first?
I feel like I've been very unkind in all my comments. Just for the Wookiee fight, I should give it a better rating.
I've been the unkind one. I've been yelling this entire episode.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
I've sworn to be.
You're on an arc towards bitterness. You're on an arc towards the Luke level bitterness. Looking forward to.
So true.
It's character development. That's what
I'll give my ranking. I'll give mine first.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'm throwing it a bone. I'm giving it a 1 for the Wookiee.
Throwing it a bone. Wow.
The Wookiee fight, I did enjoy.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2 because in my mind, nothing is worse or even on the same par with Power of Many. And,
right, you gave Power of Many a 0.
So I at least have to give it 1 notch above that. At least it could have been worse.
They could have, if they just flashed back to that scene in this episode, then it would have de-escalated it even more.
Right. If they had a flashback to that, yeah, it would have been all over.
I'm gonna give the Wookiee fight a 6. I'm going to give the crushing disappointment of the revelation that this was all nothing a 0. So that leaves me with a 2.7.
So it's a 2.7 rating.
It's the power of 2.7. The power of 1? No, we're not stopping there.
The
power of 2? No, it's a little bit more than that. It's 2.7.
2.7.
And you can't believe how disappointed I am in this show that they explained absolutely nothing to us of any significance. We don't know how the twins were created. We don't know whether the coven was even evil or not.
Yeah.
It's all just left up. We don't know why would you introduce a mist force power, turning a child into mist in the next to last episode in a flashback, explaining how this whole thing started, and we don't even know what it is. So we still don't know whether Saul, he might have saved creation there. They might have started a chain reaction that never stopped and evaporated all humans like Thanos snap. He may be the greatest hero we've ever seen. We have no idea. He has no idea. No one has any idea.
And see, this creates a viewer in me who does not care.
Right. Because you tricked me once.
Yeah. I don't even care how it turns out or what you mean by all your stuff.
Yeah.
Not interested. Okay, well, those are some positive ratings. We all rated a perfect 10. So.
I give it a 2.7 for all those people who sweated and put their creativity and worked their ass off and did their best on this show, which there are many. And they still deserve credit because they didn't edit this thing. They didn't write this thing. They didn't make the decisions that make it make no sense.
They did what they could with what they were given.
Yeah, there's, so I'm sorry your efforts were mostly in vain as far as entertainment value, but
100%
I'll always have episode 5. I love that episode.
Yeah.
Maybe this whole fiasco was worth it for that. Who knows?
We'll see. All right. Well, I guess that wraps up episode 7 of the Acolyte.
Are we all going to be here next week?
I've got to see how Saul explains things.
Oh yeah, it's only one more. I can suffer through it.
Okay, I know discussion is supposed to be over, but I kind of like Gundark's point about one. This has bothered me as they ended the episode last week with Saul saying, "I've been waiting 16 years to tell you this. Now you're going to listen." Then we have an entire episode without his voice.
Yeah, was it his
So we're
perspective? I don't know.
We're seeing it, but are they going to come back and he's mind melding with her and showing what he saw?
Yeah,
That's the only way they could save that. Is he going to repeat everything we just heard? We just saw?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, we only got one episode left. Why didn't they frame this episode as in like, May, it's going to hurt me, you know, to tell you this, and then and just have him narrate every once in a while or something to show that show us what he's telling her. We're going to come back not knowing. I mean, is he ever going to tell anyone anything? You know, so many missed opportunities. But anyway.
Oh God.
That's the best soundbite for the episode right there is.
I like Gundark's. What did you say? Is it atrocity or something? Atrocity at the beginning. You said something really harsh, and I realized you just meant the characters. I was like, darn it!
Oh, whoever told this
close.
story was a crackpot. That's what
crackpot. Yeah. And we're not trying to say that.
No, I'm not trying to say the writer is a crackpot. I'm trying to say that this story was poorly presented,
or if
it's an in-universe story.
Make your own decision. Exactly. We're just venting our own feelings here.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not Jedi. We are led by our emotions.
Yes.
Much like the botany crew.
I'm about ready to climb the wall and save the Star Wars children, though. At this point, I'm losing hope.
Oh boy! All right, that's gonna do it. So you know the drill. Like, subscribe, leave us some comments down below, and thanks for sticking it out with us. Hopefully, you're liking it better than we are, and getting more out of it.
Believe it or not, this is usually a pretty positive podcast. I think
it usually is, but we can only go with
we always have at least one voice of positivity.
The crew of the show. We can only work with what we're given. So, all right, you guys.
I bet some of this
we'll see you next week.
Editing room floor too.
Oh boy!
Look, my bad soul impression. It does not make the podcast.
In a lot of ways, though, honestly, in a lot of ways, I thought this episode was a lot like Empire Strikes Back, in that I watched the entire episode with my jaw on the floor, for different reasons.
Yeah.
Oh,
can you imagine a time when they saw a probe droid and they said, "It's a good bet the Empire knows we're here," and then the Empire showed up?